King B7.
C8, mate.
This is 5-time world chess champion Magnus Carlsen playing 5 games of chess against businessmen at the same time. But what makes this interesting is the fact that he couldn't even see any of the boards. Magnus built all 5 positions in his memory and kept track of them throughout each of the games. This isn't even the first time it's been done. Blind simultaneous games are a somewhat common thing for top chess players to participate in. Just 2 years prior, Magnus beat 10 Harvard lawyers at the same time, blindfolded. To put in perspective how incredible this really is, Magnus kept track of 640 squares, 320 pieces, and how they all interacted positionally on the board, winning every single game. And it's not just Magnus that can do it. Practically any chess player at the master level can play a game of blindfolded chess, and even some below can too. So how do they do it? Do top chess players have something special with their memory? Or is there something larger at play? To begin, how do they even play blindfolded? Well, to decipher the moves, chess players use algebraic notation to create coordinates for each square along with the first letter of the piece moved or other signs depending on the circumstances. This information is then relayed to someone who usually plays the moves on behalf of the blindfolded party, allowing them to play without even seeing any of the boards. This isn't exactly a new idea either. It's been around for centuries, dating all the way back to the 6th century. Back then, players used it to handicap chess masters when playing against a worse opponent, and people continue to do it throughout history. It was quite the flex to defeat your opponent without looking at the board. Early giants of chess adopted the format. Andrei Danican-Philidor managed to play 3 players blindfolded in 1783 with great success. Paul Morphy managed to play 8 without losing in 1858. Joseph Henry Blackburn managed to play 16, and even the first world champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, could play 6. It was a great way for these players to earn an income off chess before it was profitable. And the number of participants only grew from then on. In 1924, Alekhine played 26 at the same time, and the record was shuffled around strong chess players until it was taken by the current holder, Timur Gareev, in 2016 when he managed to play a whopping 48 games of chess at the same time, blindfolded. This, of course, is insanely impressive. But how do they manage to play games against as many opponents as that? Well, chess masters' memory ability is actually a well-researched subject dating back all the way to the 1960s. In 1965, psychologist and chess master Adrian de Groot conducted an important chess study. He wanted to see how masters would decipher the game compared to amateurs. One part of this was memory. He took a group of chess masters alongside of a group of amateurs. He would show them both a legal chess position for exactly 5 seconds before taking it away. The participants were then asked to reconstruct said position from memory. Masters had an incredible ability to reconstruct the positions, being able to do it basically flawlessly the majority of the time, while the players below that level had a sharp drop-off in ability. He then restarted the experiment. However, this time, he kept the same number of pieces, but made them randomize the legal positions. So, for example, a position where 3 kings are on the board, something you wouldn't see in a regular chess game. And what he found this time around was that the chess masters were no better in short-term recall than the amateurs. Their ability to recreate positions had nothing to do with their memory, but rather their experience. So how could all these chess masters be vastly better at recreating positions when the board made sense? It all has to do with something called chunking. In psychology, the term chunking refers to the mind's ability to chunk different bits of information into groups to better process and store them for later. So for the case of chess, these masters had a much greater experience in the matter. Therefore, when there were legal positions on the board, their brains were better at analyzing and chunking information, which allowed for better recall when they needed to rebuild the position. And essentially, in blindfold chess, this plays a huge role since the masters need to remember every single position from all the boards they're playing on. And because they are just like us when it comes to memorization ability, they use other tricks to facilitate the task. Let's rewind back to the start of Magnus's blindfold simultaneous game in 2015.
Board 1, E4. Board 2, D4.
Understood.
Board 3, C4. Board 4, Knight F3. Board 5, G3.
Did you catch that? For every first move of the game, Magnus played a different move. And this is no coincidence. These chess masters use this strategy as a form of recall to better remember their games. Each opening move is associated with the game, which will better help the player remember the game down the line and differentiate them. These players need to do things like this, or else they will struggle remembering the games, as they are human just like us. In 2023, 19-year-old Grandmaster Arjun Erigaisi, ranked 30th in the world at the time, took on the challenge of playing 8 chess amateurs at the same time, blindfolded. And it was his first time participating in events such as this one. It was a show match like any other, until Arjun made a fatal mistake. He opened all 8 games with the exact same move, pawn to d4. This caused him to have problems remembering positions in some of the games. Just 5 minutes into the games, he'd already mixed up the boards and tried to play an illegal move.
Board 2, knight b4.
Queen a4 check.
There's a pawn on c2.
While Arjun put on quite the show against these 8 players, he proved that grandmasters are human and don't have special powers when it comes to memorization. He often struggled throughout the match to remember positions, but this memorization and tricks are only half of the process. While remembering the position and moves is important, another key aspect of these games is visualizing the board. Remembering the position is cool and all, but it means nothing if you can't visualize in your head to analyze the position. Luckily for these masters, this is exactly their strength, as playing chess at this level requires players to master the ability of visualization in order to calculate variations and calculate what moves they could play alongside their opponent's possible response. For example, in 2021, 16-year-old Grandmaster Pragnananda was giving the coordinates to all the pieces on the board and asked to find the best move in the puzzle.
Knight f3. Knight f3. G3, queen s3, rook h2, knight g3, mate. Knight f3, queen moves knight d2.
You're right. Awesome. Last
Knight
one.
f3, queen d2, queen moves knight g3 is mate, yeah.
But where the queen moves, because
Queen f2, bishop f2.
bishop f2.
Yeah.
So queen moves knight g3 is mate. Yeah.
These players become confident in creating the board in their head up to 10 moves or more in advance while seeing how all the pieces interact. And playing blindfolded is essentially the same thing. All mental calculations. So elite chess players' requirement to learn how to mentally calculate and their level of pattern recognition and chunking when it comes to chess positions allows them to play multiple games at the same time while blindfolded. Of course, these games are impressive, but they're usually never competitive, and rather put on as exhibitions in corporate settings. These simultaneous games are often just a party trick for show rather than something competitive. The competitors are often amateurs and are just there for the spectacle. For example, in Erigaisi's games mentioned earlier, one of his competitors didn't even know the en passant rule in chess, which allows you to capture a pawn on the same rank.
Board 2, c5.
N pass, d takes c6.
What is this?
It's an n on pass.
Okay, shall I play something else?
This really does make you wonder, what if these blindfold simultaneous games were actually conducted against good players? Well, we got a taste of it, as in September 1999, number 5th ranked in the world Alexei Shirov faced off against 5 decent players with 2 hours for the whole game. Out of the 5 games, he destroyed the unrated Papo in 25 moves, and did the same to the 22-35 rated Piquet, but drew the 22-29 rated Parn and the 23-12 rated Noppert, and ultimately lost to the highest rated adversary, the 23-40 rated Erwin Lamy. Of course, this is a tiny sample size, but as you'd expect, and probably why it isn't done more often, blindfold simultaneous games are just very difficult to do against people who actually know what they're doing. But this just makes you wonder, if one of the best players in the world right now, like Magnus Carlsen, were to play blindfolded, up to what level could he compete? Could he beat another Grandmaster? Could he beat multiple international masters? We will likely never get an answer to those questions, but many have been warning against playing blindfold chess for years. In 1930, the USSR banned blindfold as they deemed it to be a significant health hazard, and Mikhail Botvinnik warned against it. The strain it is said to cause on one's mind because of all the extra thought needed is presumed to be dangerous when played regularly, which slightly supports the lack of regular blindfold exhibitions, but no research was ever conducted into that. Ultimately, the truth is that these players have nothing crazy when it comes to memory. They don't hold photographic memory, as some might think, but rather work in a field where visualization of the board is key in making decisions that will positively impact them later on in the game, and the ability to play blindfolded is naturally developed because of it. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing.